Without further ado, we're all here to be able, and this was really my thoughts on this event, that we can walk away from this and use this as a springboard in Tulsa County and across the state to be able to start to reach out to people that maybe we haven't always done the best of reaching out to. Derrick Wilburn is associated with the Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives as well as the American Conservatives of Color. And if you haven't seen him do his weekly addresses for, which is Tea Party, it's Tea Party Network, go on YouTube, look up Derrick Wilburn. He's got some fantastic stuff on there. They're also on Facebook. Be sure to go like their pages and all that good stuff to get really good information. Like I said, without further ado, Derrick Wilburn.
Thanks, TC. Great stuff. I'm using the headset. You got me on, Josh? Thank you, TC. Thank you, everybody. Just thrilled to be down here in Oklahoma. Before I get started, let me give an applause line to all the candidates that spoke here tonight. That was exceptional. And you know what I noticed? Everyone that came up here and spoke on the platform talked to you about reasons to vote for them. Not a one of them mentioned reasons not to vote for an opponent. It was all positive. It was all, this is what I stand for. None of that I'm great and he's a bum type stuff. And I don't have a dog in this race because I don't live here. But Dax, I'm going to tell you, I'm stealing some of your material. That was a great stump speech for a rookie too. So thank you, TC, and thank you everybody for welcoming me. I've had a great time. I've been here for a whole 6 hours, and I'm loving it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing myself and all that stuff because we have a long way to go and a short time to get there. But my background, I've been an entrepreneur. I live in Colorado. I live in Colorado Springs. I have a wife and 3 children. Some of you who are my Facebookers see me bragging on my kids all the time. Our oldest son will be entering the United States Air Force Academy 28 days from today. He just graduated high school, and he's going to become a cadet on June 26th. And I've been an entrepreneur in Colorado for about 12 years. Prior to that, I was in corporate America. Worked in Silicon Valley, San Jose, California, working in the high-tech .com.bomb bubble of the 1990s. And, you know, when you're in corporate America, or if you're in these multi-level marketing companies, and everybody's been in one of those things at some point or another, one of the big things they give you in corporate training is you got to come up with your life's mission statement. You ever have this thing, you got to come, what's your mission statement for your life? And I could never do that. I hated that thing. I'd come up with something, and that sounds stupid. Cross it off, come up with something, keep it for a week. I could never do it. I finally come up with a mission statement for my life. Took me better part of 47 years, but I've got it. My mission in life is to fundamentally change the Republican Party. That's my mission in life. Now, this is interesting. Think about this. I say that, I get out and speak in front of groups. I mean, sometimes it's thousands of people in these great big rallies, and sometimes it's a small, more intimate setting like this, and personally I prefer this a lot more, just a handful of us. But inevitably, it's a room full of Republicans, and I'll say my mission is to fundamentally change the Republican Party, and people respond the way you just responded. Good, because we suck, I am on a mission to fundamentally change the Republican Party, because the Republican Party, in my opinion, the change that this party needs is not policy-based. The party does not need to change its policies for the most part. The party does not need to change its people for the most part. There's a handful that need to go away. John McCain. There are some, excuse me. But for the most part, the issues the Republican Party faces, in my opinion, are not policy-based. And as evidence of that fact, I give you Detroit, Michigan. Some of you heard me talking about this on the radio the other day. Detroit, Michigan, everybody knows the issues with Detroit, Michigan. Detroit, Michigan is a shambles. It's a shell of its former self. It's half of its former self. Detroit at its high was 1.5 million people. Today it's about 700,000 people. One of the greatest cities in the world, a couple of decades ago, is now bankrupt, 35,000 buildings condemned and waiting to be torn down. The city is a shambles. Detroit is the largest per capita black city in the country. About 88% of the residents of the city of Detroit are blacks. Come November, about 90% of the black people in Detroit are going to walk in the booth and vote for a Democrat. So it's not policy. That's all we need to know. Clearly, the issue isn't policy. If it were policy-based, if people were just voting on policy, there isn't a black person in Detroit who would consider voting for a Democrat. They've ruined their city. So it's not policy that's the problem. Tonight, we're going to talk about what it is the problem. And I want to start that off by relaying to you an experience that I had in life about a year ago now. I mentioned my oldest son. He's going to the Air Force Academy next month, but he's only 17. He won't be 18 until Christmas. He's a year ahead of his time. Brilliant kid. And he got it. Yeah, he's just an amazing young man. Captain in the Civil Air Patrol, vice president of his class, 3 years running, 3.8, grade point 8, just off the charts. But he's had his driver's license now for about a year. I took him down. I took him down to the DMV to take his driver's test last April or May or whatever it was. So it was about a year ago, and he passed, no problem. He's a very good driver. And on the way home, I pick up the phone and I call the insurance agent and hey, he passed his test, give him add him to the insurance policy. He's a driver now, right? That was on a Tuesday. The following evening, Wednesday night, I'm down in my basement in my office. My office is in the basement in our house, and it's about 8 o'clock at night. And my son, and it's dark out because it's springtime, and my son comes in the office and he says, "Dad, I need to return this." He had some study guide or something that he borrowed from one of his classmates that lives not too far away. And he said, "Dad, I need to return this to Ben's house, to Andrea. Can I take the car?" And I went, I didn't know what to say. I had no idea. Something happened to me that very rarely happens to me. I got caught completely speechless. I had no idea what to say. And so I just sat there. Because, on the one hand, I didn't want to tell him no, right? But on the other hand, I didn't want to tell him yes either. And in this particular situation, those are the only two options that were available. And since I didn't like either one of them, I just sat there like a dope, looking at him, looking at me. Well, this went on for probably, 20, 30 seconds, long time for silence between two people, right? And finally, I reached the point, I realized, well, we got to cross this bridge sooner or later. Might as well be now. So I said, well, yeah, son, I guess you can. And he's gone. Up the stairs. I heard that garage door going up immediately. Right? He's going to get the heck out of there before Dad changes his mind. But here's the thing. That was a life's first for me. I'd never been there before. And in my entire time on this planet, that had never before happened to me. And I didn't know how to deal with it. I wasn't prepared for that. I say that because we're at a place in America right now. This is a life's first for everybody in this room, for everybody, period. We've never seen this before. And lots of us see what's happening in our country and say, what can we do? We've never seen it. Yeah, we've seen liberalism nibbling away at the edges. We've seen liberalism having pockets of victory here and there, and every now and then a ruling would go away that we didn't like. But we've never seen anything like this. Just the wholesale erosion of our Constitution. The federal government and some state governments now just running roughshod over the rights of the people. We have things happening right now that are blatantly unconstitutional. We've never seen this before. And most of us are sitting here going, what do we do? We have never seen this. The government is just expanding and growing. We've reached the point where the purpose of our government is to expand our government's strength, size, power, and reach. And now the government is governing so much parts of our lives, micromanaging us to the point where we've never seen anything like this with the SEC, with the EPA, with the BLM, with all this alphabet soup. We've got government agencies that can actually dictate and control the degree to which you punish your own children. the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, and now Child Protective Services under federal auspices, the Child Protective Services. We didn't have any of that stuff. This stuff didn't exist 30, 40 years ago because we didn't have this much government, and we didn't have this much government because we didn't need it, and we didn't need it because we had what was known as personal responsibility. When I was a kid growing up, when I was a child growing up, every single mom in my neighborhood had butt-whooping authority on me. Every single one of them. It didn't matter. You know, you'd be over at your neighbor's house or over at your playmate's house, fooling around, doing something you darn well knew you shouldn't have been doing, and his mom would catch you. And she'd let you have it, send you home, but before you got home, she's already picked up the phone and called your mom. You walk in the door at your house, your mom's waiting to give it to you again. And then your mom would give it to you twice, right? Once for whatever it is that you did, and once for embarrassing her in front of her friend over at somebody else's house acting like you weren't raised right. I can only imagine the reaction I would have received had I looked at my mom and said, I'm going to call Child Protective Services on you. That sister didn't play. My mom would have been like, two things. First, what's Child Protective Services? Second, how are you planning on calling anybody with a dislocated jaw? Pow! Now get up there and straighten up that pigsty. I didn't need protection from my mom. I needed protection from like 17 people's moms because it was just a different America. We had a different America, and now that America is shifting, changing, and evolving into this new things, we find ourselves saying, what can we do? Some of you in this room, maybe most of you, you grew up in a house with a loaded shotgun in the hall closet. It was no big deal. It was no big deal. I mean, you knew it was there. Your brothers and sisters knew it was there. Your friends knew it. Everybody knew it was there. They had one at their house too. It was just no big deal. When Grandpa came and picked you up, or Uncle Ed or whomever, jump in his pickup truck to go somewhere for an ice cream cone, you jump in the pickup truck, there's another one in there. Loaded. 12 gauge, ready for action. Because Uncle Ed or Grandpa never knew when they may come around a corner, scare up some pheasant, and if he's quick enough, he might be able to get some dinner. Is this the truth? The last thing that Uncle Ed was worried about was the government coming around saying, oh, no, you don't. Different America. When you and I played on City League ball teams, if you finished in 9th place out of 10 teams, you did not go home with a trophy. Didn't happen 40 years ago. In those days, only one team went home with a trophy. The champions. The rest of us, all we went home with was a lecture. That was it. Coach would gather you around after the last game of the season. Come on in here, you guys. Listen, we tried hard, but we didn't get it done this year. Here's what needs to happen. If you want to win that trophy next year, what you need to do is start working on your game. The reason you didn't win the trophy is because you weren't good enough. So what I suggest you kids do is go home and turn off the boob tube and start spending some time working on your drills, working on your fundamentals. You need to get better. That's the reason we didn't win a trophy. The problem here isn't that your soft, delicate, little underdeveloped egos need protecting. That's not the problem. The problem is you kids stink. That's what's wrong. So what you really need to do is start working on your game. But between now and next season, what you really have to do right now is get the heck out of here because the very sight of you all is making me sick. Okay, and the coach was my dad. It didn't matter. You didn't have people calling up the YMCA or calling up the city park and rec department saying, that coach was mean to my kid, because we understood back in those days the reason you put kids into city league teams. You don't put them into a city league team because one day they're hopefully going to become a professional and earn tens of millions of dollars in the big leagues. The reason you put them into city league team is to teach them lessons about life. And the fact of the matter is, in life, we aren't all equal. In life, there are going to be people who can throw further than you can. There are going to be people who can run faster than you can. There are going to be people who can jump higher than you can. And if you want to keep up with them, you have to apply yourself. You have to try. You have to earn respect. No one's going to just give it to you. In life, there are no trophies for coming in last place. That's not how this works. In life, no one just wakes up one day and says, wow, I have a $300,000 annual salary, a brand new BMW, and a vacation house by the lake. How did that happen? It doesn't happen that way. It happens because people earned it. They applied themselves and they won the trophies. They were not given the trophies. And if you want one, you have to become one of those people. We understood all these things 35 years ago. I know somebody out there understands what I'm talking about right now, because what I'm talking about is the old school. Now, somehow, 35 years later, all that's just gone out the window. And those of us who were there, those of us who lived it, those of us who understand these principles are foundational truths, find ourselves saying, what can we do? This stinks. I hate what I see happening to my country. It's happening on my watch. It's happening right in front of my eyes, and I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of being in my body, but what can we do? Well, I'm glad you asked. If that's you, if this little tirade the last 5 minutes describes you, if you can relate to that, if that's you, wave at me. Okay, that's just about everybody. This stupid thing. If you can relate to that, and if that's you, I've got good news for you. The good news is I believe you're in the right place at the right time tonight, because I'm going to answer that question. What can we do? There is something we can do, and there's something we need to begin doing yesterday and over the course. What I have is I actually have a plan. Republicans are great about talking about outreach. And if that worked, we wouldn't be in the position we're in today. The Republicans have no plan for outreach that I've ever seen. I actually have a plan. I actually have something that we can work with the local community, get on the ground, and begin the process of reaching into the community and communicating and developing the relationships that will one day result in votes. I actually have a plan, and over the course of the next hour, I'm going to lay it out for you in stunning detail. Yes, that's right, he said hour. This was just the introduction. Sweetheart, I'm not even warmed up yet. So let's get this show on the road. We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. If I can remember what I did with the stupid... I know what I'm doing, as far as you know. So what I want to do with this presentation tonight... there we go. I'm going to break this presentation up into 3 sections: past, present, future. Okay, I want you to know my past. You don't know, most of you don't know me. I've got some people you've probably been following for a little while, maybe some Facebookers and stuff, but it's important. You can't know your future if you don't know your past. So we're going to talk a little bit about the past. We're going to talk about where we are today. And we're going to talk about where I'm trying to take this organization, because I believe with all my heart, mind, body, spirit, and soul that this organization, what I'm trying to do, is the most important topic in the world today. I believe it, because as the United States goes, so goes the world, right? And right now, as the Republican Party goes, so goes the United States. Since the Republican Party has been largely failing, the world's not going in a good direction. Our foreign policy, we have no foreign policy. The world is a mess. And now here in Oklahoma, you've got a solidly red state. Thank God. When I moved to Colorado in 2001 from California, Colorado was a solidly red state, solid red. Red everything. Then it turned purple, and now it's solidly blue. We have a left-wing governor. We have 2 senators that are Obama rubber stamps, and the Democrats have control of both houses of our Congress. And it happened for one reason and one reason only. The Democrats successfully courted the brown vote. And now we're stuck playing 10-year catch-up. The time to get started in Oklahoma attracting ethnic minority voters is now. Not once liberalism has crept into your state and all of a sudden you're 5, 10, 15 years down the road going, what do we do? What happened to our state? That was us 10 years ago. You're next. And Texas. Don't think that they aren't trying, because they are. So this is the cover of Town Hall magazine from last February. I'm sure a lot of you get Town Hall magazine. If you don't, you should. But take a look at this cover. It's very telling. Minority problem, and of course the O is the elephant. It's messaging, not principles. How did I start? It's not principles. It's not policy. For the most part, it isn't people. Those aren't the problems. We, on the Republican side, do not have to water down our policies. We do not have to become socialists light. We don't have to hug the Democrats and look more like them to attract voters. None of that stuff is true. That's not the problem. So I said we're going to go past, present, future. So let me give you a little background on the organization. I started this thing in my backyard as the Rocky Mountain Black Tea Party. I've been a fundamental conservative for 20, 25 years. I mean, some things, what does skin color have to do with it? But that's another conversation altogether. Like a lot of you, with the election of Barack Obama in 2008, and the Democrats taking majority control of both houses of Congress swearing in 2009, and all of a sudden they've got the motor is running, and they've got the legislation machine cranked up. They had supermajority status in both houses of Congress. They didn't need any Republican votes, and they didn't care. Okay, they got that health care bill rammed through even without all the Democrat votes. They had such control. So they're just going crazy in 2009 and 2010, passing legislation in the middle of the night. I mean, we all remember what was going on. And I'm just sitting there getting more and more frustrated. Like a lot of you, I'm just watching the TV, and I finally reached the point and said, I can't even watch it anymore. Just turn it off. I've had enough. And then I realized one day, sitting here getting angry that the TV isn't changing anything. I need to get involved. And so I started the very first meeting we ever had in my backyard. This whole thing began in my backyard. And this time, in 2010, we had a Senate race in our state. Our incumbent Democrat senator, a guy named Michael Bennet, who is still in the Senate, was being challenged by a gentleman named Ken Buck, the Republican nominee. And I picked up the phone one day, and I called Ken Buck's campaign office, and I said, you know, Republicans historically get a very small percent of the black vote, and some of that's you Republicans' fault. I mean, we feel like there's no message. We feel like there's no energy. We feel like you don't even care. So if Mr. Buck would like, I will host a meet and greet at my home. I can get the black folks there. I got friends, family, church members, and I can fill the place up. If he wants to come and explain to us why he deserves our vote, I will make my home available, and he accepted. So our very first meeting, before we even were a Tea Party, this is in my backyard. That's the back of my house. That's Ken Buck right there. And he came to my house, and we had, I don't know, there's me. I got up and introduced him before we got going. Boy, that's a good-looking picture. And we had 35, 40 people, something like that, came, sat in my backyard, and listened to this guy, asked him a bunch of questions. It went very well. Well, after this thing, let me back up. After this thing happened, he loses the election in November. That was in August. He loses the election in November, but I kept running into my friends and people that were at this event at church and different, in my social circles, and they all started saying the same thing. They all started saying, that guy, Ken Buck, he wasn't half bad. I actually agree with some of the things he had to say. To which I replied, duh. How about this for a thought? Maybe what we've been told our entire lives about the Republicans isn't true. Maybe it's just not true. Why don't you begin the process of investigating what the individuals stand for and stop going by the label that the party slaps on them, and then make your decisions to vote based upon that? So I said, you know what, that event went pretty well, let's do it again. So I think our next speaker, I invited Darrell Glenn, this black guy right here, as one of our county commissioners. We were there in our backyard. You see the crowd grew a little bit. Then I invited some more people. The crowd grew a little bit. Then next thing you know, I get in touch with C.L. Bryant, runaway slave, and we have him come out. And we put on this day, we rented out a theater, a private theater, and we hosted an event over the course of 2 showings, morning and afternoon showings. We hosted over 600 people in one day. And there's CL and the rest of my team. So you see we're the Rocky Mountain Black Tea Party at that point. There's me. There's my son right there that's going to the Air Force Academy. So I tripped, fell down, and stood up a political activist. Didn't even know what I was doing. Still don't know what I was doing. I just know that I'm doing something. So this thing is literally grassroots. We were literally on my grass in my backyard. And then we outgrew my backyard. I rented a space, and then next thing you know, here we go. I started this Tea Party. Well, right now we are formed as a 501c3 pending with the IRS. We're getting a thorough probing from them as the Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives. So as we moved into 2011 and the 2012 election cycle, I decided that I want to make a difference on the ground. One of the things that I hate, and I hate this more than anything, is when you go to a meeting and the speaker gets up there and tells you everything that's wrong and then sits down. Okay, they just get up there and tell you all the problems. I hate that. I don't need to know the problems. You have to tell me the problems. I know the problems. Don't tell me the problems. Tell me your solutions. If you don't have any solutions, as far as I'm concerned, get off the podium and give the microphone to somebody that does. So I wanted to get out and make a difference in the state of Colorado. So at this point in time, this is prior to the 2012 general election, at this point in time, you heard 3 states that could potentially be the swing states that determine the election: Romney, Obama. You heard Pennsylvania, you heard you heard Ohio, you heard Florida, you heard Colorado. We didn't know. Of course, this is Monday morning quarterbacking now, but at that time we didn't know. We thought that whoever won Colorado, that delegate assignment could very well be the deciding factor in this election. So I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get out and then we're going to make a difference on the streets of Colorado. And the fact of the matter is, in the black community and in the Hispanic community, the media and the left, the political left, has successfully labeled the Tea Party as being racist. It's not true, but perception is reality. You go into a black neighborhood and you tell somebody I'm with the local Tea Party, conversation's over. Nothing you say after that is going to get heard. So I made the decision to drop the name Rocky Mountain Black Tea Party and become the Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives. And I said, we are going to go out and hit the streets and make a difference. Because if we can move it just a little bit, if we can move the black and Hispanic vote in this state 1.5, 2%, that might be enough to swing the state, and then that, therefore, might be enough to swing the whole election. So we became the Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives, and we went out and started doing this grassroots thing. And some of you in this room are Facebookers of mine. I've got tens and tens and tens of thousands, of Facebook, and I got no help from the Republican Party. We did this all by ourselves. So we designed these flyers that you see right here. I went on Facebook and said, look, we're going to try to make a difference in this state, but we need help. And if you'll chip in $5, and if you'll chip in $10, and if you'll chip in $5, and you'll chip in $15, we can print these flyers up and we'll take them out onto the streets and start talking to people when people begin contributing. So we printed these off by the thousands. And this flyer, so you look at that thing and it says right on there, we take this thing into neighborhoods, walking door to door, into black and Hispanic owned businesses, into the barbershops and the hair and nail salons, me and my little band of married men and women, and we show people this thing and say, look at this. Are you aware that black unemployment in this nation is double what it is white? Are you aware that black foreclosures are quadruple what it is for white? Do you know any of these things? Well, no, I didn't know that. Well, now you do, next door. And we were just out working it. So we went out, we did our own, so this is up in Fort Collins, Colorado. We had a group of people up in Fort Collins, a group like yourselves, that said, we've got a pretty decent Hispanic population here and about 6% or so black, and could you show us how to do these things? Because we know it's for people, for white people, it's very uncomfortable. I don't understand the culture. I don't look right. I mean, how do we do it? So I said, of course we will. So we gassed her up and drove up there, Fort Collins, Colorado. I live way down south in Colorado Springs. Fort Collins is closer to Cheyenne, Wyoming. 2-hour drive. We drove up there, sat there, and put on this symposium for these people. There's me right there when I was rocking the bald-headed look. That's Deborah Jones. That's Sheldon Valaire, and that's Leland Robinson. Both of those guys are from Denver. We went up there and put this thing on for these guys. We went out and did our own honky waves. Honk and waves. TC, was I just thinking or did I say that out loud? I did? We went out and did our own honking waves. So we went over to GOP headquarters and got our little Romney Ryan signs, paid $5 a piece for whatever, and every weekend we'd set up a different part of town, go out and do a honking wave. So I'll tell you what, you've never had more people wave at you one finger at a time in your life. You bunch of black guys out there with a Romney sign. But we didn't care. So we went out and we did this thing all over the place. Every weekend we'd pick another intersection. We'd be out there, we're standing this thing for Romney Ryan. Now, this is a rally down in Pueblo, Colorado, just south of where I live. Now, where I live, El Paso County, Colorado, and the county immediately to our south, Pueblo, are very, very critical to winning the entire state. Very, very critical counties. In our two counties, one of the big five, Romney, Ryan, Barack, Michelle, or Joe Biden, one of the big five, was at a live event in our county every single week for 16 weeks prior to the election. They made a living in our county. And I said, when Romney comes or when Ryan comes, we're going to have somebody at every one of those rallies. So when they take that camera and pan the audience, they can't say, see, the Republicans have no black people. There'll at least be a few of us. So this is down in Pueblo. Now, this is actually a fascinating series of pictures. So this is after his little speech, and Romney's now walking the line, shaking people's hands and stuff. So here's the back of my head wearing my Cubs jacket, and I'm talking to Romney right now, and I'm giving him the scoop on who I am. I say, Governor, I founded the Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives. We're out on the streets working for you. We're handing out flyers. We're doing everything we can to communicate to our black brothers and sisters. I'm giving them and Romney's just listening to me talk, right? Well, check this dude out. Okay? This is Secret Service. All right, Secret Service guys taking a good long look. But what you don't realize is also in this picture there are three more Secret Service people. This guy here is Secret Service. This guy here, and this here is a Colorado State Trooper. Okay, now look at the three of them. They are paying no attention whatsoever to what's going on. Okay, this guy, however, is paying attention to what's going on. And after I'm talking to Romney for about 10 or 20 seconds or whatever, and I've got him, we're holding hands, and Romney's enjoying himself. This guy right here all of a sudden does one of these numbers. Listen, I don't know what's going on with the black guy. Somebody got eyes on the black guy here. What the? Okay, now, so look at these three right now. Look at them now. Okay, check this dude out now. All right, they are eyes on target. Okay, they're all of a sudden. Now Romney is loving it. Romney's going, "You're the man. I love what you're doing. Keep me informed. You're going to make a difference for this country." He's giving me the. And all of a sudden, this guy here, listen, Governor, we probably need to keep moving. We're probably be. So it's a funny. See, and I don't get offended. I don't care. This stuff doesn't bother me at all. It's like water off a duck's back. I don't care. If I walk into a store and they want to assign somebody to follow me around because I'm black and I might be a shoplifter, what do I care? I'm not a shoplifter. Waste your time following me around all you want. This stuff doesn't bother me. I think it's funny, as you can see. So we're out doing these events. And we failed. As it turned out, it didn't matter who won Colorado for that election. But we failed in Colorado, and we failed miserably. In Colorado, in November of 2012, we got destroyed, we on the conservative side. We lost everything. Not just the general election. We lost everything. We lost marijuana. We lost the House. We lost the Senate. We got destroyed in Colorado. And I had a mentor in my life, a very great man. And he used to tell me, this is when I was in California, he used to tell me, Derrick, whenever you get beaten down like that, it's going to do one of two things to you. It's either going to make you bitter or it's going to make you better. You decide. And I decided, you know what? We're going to get better. Just because we got cream this time, we're not going to fold the tent up and go home. We're going to get better. We're going to take this thing nationally. What we've started here is what this country needs, and we're going to find a way to make this happen. And I made the decision that day, and I set up the American Conservatives of Color. So past, present, future, right? The American Conservatives of Color. I like the Rocky Mountain Black Conservatives. It works for me, but it's not geographically, it doesn't make sense if you're in Virginia or New Hampshire or Oklahoma. It just doesn't make any sense. So I set up the American Conservatives of Color. The American Conservatives of Color is our organization that has two missions. Mission number one is to message to the black and the brown community and to say, look, we have got to change the way that we're doing business. Message number two is to communicate to the Republican, conservative community and say, look, we have got to change the way that we're doing business. Both of these things have to happen. Over here, on the black side and on the Hispanic side, we've got to change. The way we do business is just is terrible. What we've done in the black community is we've said to the Democrat Party, we're voting for you. In advance. We're voting for you. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you stand for, what you represent. Doesn't matter what your platform is. We don't even care if you have a platform. So long as there's a D after your last name, we're voting for you. You could have been busted in a hotel room with crack cocaine and hookers, gone to prison, gotten out of prison, somehow managed to get your name onto a ballot, and as long as the letter after your last name is a D, we're voting for you. Well, that's stupid. But here's the thing. I can go places and say that to people that you can't, right? Because of the way you look. And we do. You've seen the pictures. Now, over here on this side, to the Republicans, look, we got to change the way that we're doing business. No one is going to vote for you just because you think they should. That's not even reasonable. If you aren't out messaging, holding hands, and doing the things that it takes to sell yourselves, why would anybody vote for you? Both of these things have to happen. So, the bulk of this message comes like this. This is how important this is. In 2008, John McCain got about 6% of the black vote. First speaker up here tonight talked about this. Mitt Romney did a little bit better. If either one of those two had gotten just about 10% more of the black vote alone, they would have won. That's how important this is. But here's what happened in the ranks of the Republican Party. I don't know who, and I don't know when, and neither do you. At some point, 40, 50, 80 years ago, I don't know, someone said, you know what, we can't get those votes anyway, why bother? We'll focus on that mushy middle. We'll focus on those independents and get enough of them. And that was fine in 1966, in 1979, in 1982, when you could win 53% of the Caucasian vote and still win the election. That's no longer true. America has changed. The demographic makeup of the country is shifting. The country's turning brown. The demographic makeup of the Democrat Party is shifting with it. The demographic makeup of the Republican Party is not. And that's the challenge of the Republican Party today. After the last election, a couple nights after the election, I'm going to give credit to somebody that you would probably be surprised that I will. But that beautiful, articulate, just drop-dead gorgeous spokeswoman of the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She said something that's, oh, wait a minute, there we go. She, with makeup, without makeup. That's messed up, isn't it? She said something, she was on a CNN, on one of those CNN shows, she said something very profound and extraordinarily true after the last election. She said, with the swearing in of this new Congress, January 5th, she said, with the swearing in of the new Congress, the Democrat caucus will now be majority-minority, majority-female. The Republican caucus will be more white and more male. And that's true. That's what happened in the last election. So after she said that, I wrote a column talking about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, if you look at the results of the general election, if you look at the popular vote was about 50-50, right? Like it always is. It was about 50-50. Barack Obama got 50.6% of the popular vote. But if you look at the Electoral College results, it's an absolute beatdown. Not even close. You need 270. Romney gets 206. He's not even in the neighborhood, although he got about 50% of the vote. Why is that? Well, the column that I wrote, oops. No, we'll do this first. I forgot to put the slide in there. I relate this to the movie Outbreak. Some of you have seen this movie. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty good. About 10, 15 years old. Dustin Hoffman. This movie is about a virus that pops up in Africa or something like that. Some remote village out in the jungles of Africa. Very aggressive. Extremely aggressive virus. This virus, from the time people contract it and begin showing symptoms to the time they're sticking them in the ground is just a matter of days. I mean, they're dropping dead like that. So what they do in the movie is somebody starts displaying symptoms, and they take a blood sample and look at it under the microscope. They look at the blood cell. The cell in the middle is very healthy. Okay, it looks just like it's supposed to look, that clear, milky, white, whatever it's supposed to be. But then around the edges of it, there's a ring of black where it's dying. Okay, the virus is invading the cell. So they wait a little while, later that day, next day, whatever, take another blood sample, look at it under the microscope. Same thing. In the middle, it's very healthy. But that ring of death has now gotten thicker. It's getting bigger. It's working its way into the cell. It's destroying the host. Then they take another blood sample, next day, look at it under the microscope, the whole thing is black, the cell is dead. That's the movie Outbreak. That's America. So the column I wrote, go on our website or go on American Thinker. I write for American Thinker. I write for Freedom's Journal. I write for Tea Party News. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The state of Pennsylvania is microcosmic of the entire country. If you look at the state of Pennsylvania, here's what I said. I said, if you were to show this electoral college map, this county map, to a 5-year-old child, okay, just a child, they don't understand precinct captains, they don't understand chairs, they don't understand electoral college, they don't understand any of that stuff. All they know is red and blue. You show this to a 5-year-old child and say, little Nathan, the Republicans are the red, the Democrats are the blue, who won? Any 5-year-old child in the world, I don't care how bright they are, I don't care what language they speak, I don't care about any of that stuff. Any 5-year-old child in the world is going to tell you the exact same thing. The Republicans creamed them. They killed them. Look at that, it's all red. And that's what you think. But here's the thing, little Nathan, you see this collection of blue over here? You know what that is? It's a big city. It's called Philadelphia, big city. And then you see this one out here all by itself? You know what that is? It's another big city. It's called Pittsburgh. And because the blue team won those two areas, they won the whole state. 67 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. Mitt Romney won 56 of them. That's 84%. Yet lost the state. This is America. So if you look at America, along the edges is where you find your blue. In the middle is where you find your red. Here's the problem. In the middle, where you have those red states, where you have that Constitution-loving, Bible-thumping, V8 driving conservatism that we all love, nobody lives there. Wyoming, South Dakota, Idaho, Montana, there are no people. But then along the edges, where you have all that latte-sipping, baby seal-saving, Prius-driving freak show that we can't figure out, is where you have your population centers. And here's what I wrote in this column. I hope you'll find it and read it one day. We have reached the point in America where a candidate for office can win simply by winning the majority of cities that are home to an NFL franchise. I want you to think about this. The majority of cities that are home to a National Football League franchise. So you can almost take the sports section from the Sunday paper and go right through it and find the states that Obama carried. You start over on the left coast. Washington, Seahawks, Obama. California, 49ers, Raiders, Chargers, Obama. Colorado, Broncos, Obama. Minnesota, Vikings, Obama. Wisconsin, Packers, Obama. Illinois, Bears, Obama. Michigan, Lions, Obama. Pennsylvania, Steelers, Eagles, Obama. New York, Bills, Giants, Obama. New Jersey, Jets, Obama. You can just go right through it. Massachusetts, Patriots, Obama. D.C., Redskins, Obama. Maryland, Ravens, Obama. Louisiana, Saints, Obama. You just go right through it. Florida, Jaguars, Buccaneers, Dolphins, Obama. That virus That blue virus is invading the host. It is starting on the edges and it is working its way into the middle. And it is working its way into the middle by riding in along on the backs of those cities that are home to an NFL franchise. You look at the Electoral College map and those blue rings around the edge. You start over on this side. In the middle, it's all red in Wyoming and Oklahoma, where there are no people. You look along this side at the metropolitan centers, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Sacramento, San Jose, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, San Diego, it's all blue. Then you look along this side, Boston, Hartford, New York, Newark, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, it's all blue. And now it's working its way into the middle, and it's getting in there by riding in along the backs of these cities. So any thinking person would ask themselves, okay, if that's the case, if that's what's going on, all those cities must have something in common. Right? That only makes sense. So what do they all have in common? They all have three things in common. What are they? An NFL franchise, black and brown people. The Republican Party's inability to penetrate the urban vote is its problem. Not its policies, not its people for the most part. Its inability to attract urban dwellers, and in the urban centers in our country is where you tend to find the black and the brown people. But I mentioned to you that one thing I cannot stand is when people talk about the problem and don't present solutions. What the Republican Party is missing is relationship. The issue is relationship, not policy. What the Republican Party has done for my entire life is parachute a team of people in, walk around through the neighborhoods, handing out flyers 6 weeks before an election saying, we care about you too. That is an insult. That's not an outreach policy. What the Republican Party has done for my entire lifetime is hold up the Democrat and say, here's what she stands for. Hold up the Republican, here's what we stand for. Therefore, vote for us. Wrong. First, we have to pour the foundation. The foundation is relationship. The issue the Republican Party has is relationship or lack thereof. Once the relationships are in place, then we can pursue the votes. This cannot be done the other way around. Been trying that for 50 years. It does not work. First, relationship. Second, vote. So, as evidence of this, I want to show you a quick video. This is absolutely fascinating. This is by the Rebel Pundit. A lot of you probably see him. If you don't, you can find he's on Breitbart TV and Breitbart.com. The Rebel Pundit, he goes down to an inner city street festival with a handheld camera. This is what he does. He takes around handheld cameras. He takes a handheld camera to an inner city street festival in inner city Chicago. Actually, just a couple of streets over from the neighborhood I was born in. And he just starts walking up to people and asking them, how's it working out down here for you? How's the Democrat thing working? And you'd be amazed what these people all say. So I'm going to show this about 3 minutes or so. Whenever you're ready, Josh, go ahead and fire it up.
This is where it all started, right here. Yes, we can. Do you like broken homes? Yes, we can. Do you like broken communities? Yes, we can. Do you like broken families? Yes, we can. Everything in Chicago is controlled by the Democratic Party. Everything in my community is controlled by black Democrats. There is no Tea Party in my community. There is no Republicans in my community. So they can't blame Republicans. They can't blame Tea Parties.
Most American people, especially people of my ethnicity, they don't understand that people create jobs, not government. They think, if I go out to get a job, prime example, they have 1,000 jobs at Walgreens offering. You got 500,000 people standing in line. They don't understand, a lot of Americans, including people of my ethnicity, they don't understand that people, since the pop and the mom shops, create jobs.
Democrats have been in control of this community for about 40 years.
Right.
And my question to you is, do you feel that it's the policies of the party have helped this community or hurt this community?
It has hurt this community because they feel like that they can just take us for granted and that we're just going to vote Democratic anyway. But if there was a Republican who was out here doing what I feel he should be doing, I would vote for him.
There have been a lot of movement where players at the table within a community that have been there for a while, but there's no effect again.
Do you think that their interest is in the community, or are they self-motivated?
I think they're self-motivated, and in a lot of cases, their interest is not in the community, and in a lot of cases, a lot of them don't even live in the community.
And is that black leadership or white leadership, or?
It's black leadership. It's black leadership.
What kind of support do you think that you're getting from the president, being from Chicago?
Well, right now, I haven't seen that much support from the president as far as these communities are concerned. The same support he's putting overseas, he should put here in this neighborhood, because we are hurting too.
We're not happy with what's going on. Our agenda has not been met on, has not been adhered to. And it's almost as if it's just saying, even though you got nothing, even though nobody has addressed your issues, just go with them anyway. And we say no.
President's policies failing the black community or helping?
It's failing. It's failing. It's failing.
Does the black community want jobs?
The black community need jobs. We need them, we want them, and it's a matter of life and death to us.
It is more important in this community that they promote the liberal agenda than the black agenda. What about the black family? What about the American family? I tell you that the liberal agenda is not the black agenda. It is not the family agenda, and it's not the American agenda.
Democrats have been in.
Now, hold on. I'm going to replay early in this piece, that was about 3.5 minutes, second lady to speak. I'm going to replay that segment. I want you to really zero in and listen extremely carefully to three things. Listen to number one, the question that he asks her, the specific question. He asks a very pointed question. Number two, her specific answer to that question. So he answers the question basically with one word. And then once having answered the question, listen to the brief editorial that she offers after having given that one-word answer.
Democrats have been in control of this community for about 40 years.
Right.
And my question to you is, do you feel that it's the policies of the party have helped this community or hurt this community?
It has hurt this community, but if there was a Republican who was out here doing what I feel he should be doing, I would vote for him.
If there was a Republican out here doing the things I feel he needs to be doing, i.e., shaking hands and kissing babies, I would vote for him. But there aren't any. Those of us who've been in and around the community, we've had this conversation, we've heard this conversation our entire lives. I see a few of my sisters and brothers in here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Our aunts and uncles, and we, Republicans don't come down here. I've been in this neighborhood 25 years. I've never even seen one. That first guy that spoke, I couldn't go to a Tea Party meeting if I wanted to. We don't have one of those. So, the Republicans don't mess with us, so we don't mess with them. Well, shame on you, Republican Party. That is bread being left on the table. There is a remnant. There are people in the minority community looking for another solution who recognize that the Democrat liberal plantation mentality is not working and looking for something else, and there is nothing else. Now, is that 80% of the black vote? Of course not. Is that 10%, 8%, 1%? I don't know. But I do know that they exist. I exist. We do exist. It's a place to start. And what the Republican Party needs to begin doing is building the relationships into the community today that results in the votes tomorrow. Is it easy? Is it going to happen overnight? Is this a quick fix? Of course not. But we've got to start somewhere. And if we don't start now, when? And if we don't take ownership and make it happen, who? So what I've done is I've developed my own 5-point plan. 5 specific things that incumbents, candidates for office, local activists can begin doing right now to begin the process of developing relationships with the ethnic minority community in your district, precinct, city, state, nation today. Those relationships convert into votes tomorrow. This cannot be done the other way around. I wish I had a magic bullet. I wish I could wave a magic wand and all of a sudden, poof, 30% of the black vote goes Republican. Can't do it. But think about this. The popular vote is about 50-50, right? We've established that. Everybody knows that. The Caucasian vote is about 50-50. The Hispanic vote is about 70-30. The black vote is about 90-10. If we, minorities, voted like the rest of the country, if we voted more like you, the Democrats could not elect a local dog catcher. That's how out of balance it would be. They need to keep us under their voter thumb. They don't want relationships in place. And the problem the Republicans have is they want a quick fix. Putting time into developing a relationship does not result in votes tomorrow. Well, if we don't start this, who will? So 5 things. This is my own baby. I cooked this up somewhere in the recesses of my overactive imagination. 5 specific things that Republican office holder, that Mr. or Mrs. elected Republican official, you can begin doing today. Point number 1 is to join up and to show up. Every single elected Republican official in this nation, would to God, if they were to join up, whatever you've got in your community, you got a local chapter of the Urban League, you got a local chapter of the NAACP, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the African American Chamber of Commerce, whatever you got, join up and show up. I am a card-carrying member of our local chapter of the NAACP in Colorado Springs. We're a city a little bit bigger than Tulsa, about 750, 800,000 people. I go to our NAACP meetings every month, and I see elected officials there all the time. Guess who? Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official, join up and show up. Membership in the NAACP is $30 a year. It's dirt cheap. Join up and start showing up at those meetings, not for the purpose of gaining votes. There are no votes for you there. You're going there for the purpose of developing name and face recognition. You're going there for the purpose of beginning to put the seeds in the ground of relationship. Because when you go to the NAACP meeting, when you go to the Hispanic Chamber meeting, whatever it is, they're going to do the exact same thing at their meeting that you do at yours. And that's go around and let all the visiting dignitaries stand up and say a few words, right? Well, here's what you do, Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official. When they come to you at the NAACP meeting, you stand up and for 2 minutes you say something that sounds just like this. Hello, everybody. My name is Thomas Wilson. I am a House District Representative. I represent this district. I am a Republican. But you know what? I'm going to start coming to these meetings. And I want to start getting to know you. It's time that we put aside this finger pointing and nastiness. You're a racist and you're an idiot and all this stuff. It's counterproductive. We all want the same things. At the end of the day, we all want the same things. We all want safer schools for our kids. We all want streets and roads that we're comfortable driving at night. We all want the same things. We can disagree how to get there, and that's okay. But we can disagree without the dislike. So I'm going to start coming to these meetings. I want to get to know you personally. I hope you'll come to my meetings. If I can't be here personally, stand up, Sharon. This is Sharon Graves. She's my office manager. By the way, my office is right over here on 71st Street. Stop by anytime. Drop off your materials. I promise you that I will read them. I promise you I will give you some of my time. Again, my name's Thomas Graves. I'm a State House District Representative. I'm elected to represent this whole district. Everybody, regardless of skin color, thank you, and sit down. That's it. No stump speech. You're not there looking for votes. There are no votes for you there anyway. The first time you go down there, people are going to look at you like you have 3 arms. The second time, they're going to look at you like you have 2.5 arms. The 5th time, the 10th time, the 100th time, yeah, Representative Graves, he comes all the time. Nice guy. Don't agree with him about very much, but nice enough fellow. He comes to these meetings and listens intently. Join up and show up for the purposes of developing name and face recognition. Because right now, Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official, the only thing those people know about you is what they see on the attack ad when it comes on TV every other year. That's all they know. What a bum you are. But now you start showing up at that meeting, and you stick around for the mix and mingle time when the meeting ends, and you start finding out, not will you vote for me, but how many kids do you have? Is the school down in the neighborhood succeeding for you? Do we need to make some changes there? Are you a fan of the Cubs or the White Sox? Let's start there. That's relationship. Once relationship is in place, then I'll ask you for your vote. Point number 2. Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official, let's form a committee made up of the clergy of the majority-minority church congregations in your district. So let's get the clergy together, the pastors, fathers, priests, minister, bishop, whatever they call themselves, and meet with them on a regular basis. Unfortunately, one of the saddest statements on Christianity in this country, in my opinion, is the fact that Sunday at 10 a.m. is the most segregated hour of the week. It stinks, but it's true. For the most part, most of the people at your church look like you. It's just the way that it is. It stinks, but it's the way that it is. But since it is the way that it is, let's leverage that fact to our advantage. Because when you have a relationship with the pastor, with the priest, with the father, then vicariously you now have a relationship with 200 or 300 other families. If you have credibility in the eyes of the pastor, the man in the pulpit every Sunday, and he views you in a favorable light, all those people now see and hear that. So let's get those people together on a regular basis. You meet with them personally. Don't send a staffer. Sit down with them and find out what's happening in the community, what's happening in the church. Our kids getting hooked on this new black tar heroin that's coming around in the neighborhood. Let's connect with the community of faith. The community of faith is our softest landing spot. Let's start there. So invite the members of the clergy to become members of your, and let's not cheap out. Send them a letter inviting them to sit on this clergy council. Put an announcement in the newspaper. Senator so-and-so is proud to announce the formation of this and have their names there. Stroke that ego. People love that. When people show up, have a placard waiting for them. Don't be cheap. Pipe in some sandwiches. You've got budget. You can feed people. Put some food in this meeting. So this is my local congressman. When I first showed up, when I started putting this plan in place in Colorado, I showed up in his conference room, and this was waiting for me right there when I sat down. This is on letterhead from the Congress of the United States of America. Okay? When that envelope comes in the mail, honey, that gets your attention. And I come there, and there's about 7 or 8 of us sitting there, and we sit down, and there's a placard waiting for you. That's good stuff. Now, granted, it was my idea, but that doesn't change the fact that this gets your attention. There's 7 or 8 of us. We sat down, and right there waiting for us was this placard. And then we sat and met with our congressman and talked about various issues and things going on in the community. That gets people's attention, and that says to the leaders of the faith community, you know what? This Republican cares. He's starting to get it. Point number 3. Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official, let's develop a calendar and begin attending all of the social and cultural events that are put on by the ethnic minority community in your district. Let's begin showing up and attending those things and developing positive face and name recognition, and there are a bunch of them. Those of you who follow us on Facebook, you know we do this all the time. We just finished the Cinco de Mayo outreach in Denver a couple of weeks ago. The Juneteenth is coming up. Martin Luther King Day. There's all kinds of stuff. So in Denver, we have the MLK Parade. They have the biggest parade in the country. It's a combination parade and march. Right? They call it a parade. It's stupid. But it's not a parade. There's no marching bands and floats and stuff. It's basically just a bunch of people walking down the street. But in Denver, you've got 20 to 30,000 people that participate in this thing. So we show up down there. There's me right there. There's Pauline with her dog. There's Mike Jones on my board. There's Ken Buck, the guy I told you about. He's walking it like he's talking it. This is just in February. So we're right there. This is Colfax Street. So people march down Colfax Street, 3 miles, right down Colfax Street. It ends in front of our state capitol where they have a big cake set up and a booth, and everybody gets a picture of Martin and keynote speakers and stuff. We're out there shaking hands, kissing babies. Okay? In Denver, they believe 20 to 30,000 people. Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official, 20 to 30,000 of your constituents in one place at one time. Why on earth would you ever not be there? Give me one reason, just one. Now, the first year we did this, a few years ago, it was me and 14 people. There was 15 of us, me and my buddies. We marched down the street behind a banner about the size of a business card. I'm not kidding you. I mean, that's all I could afford. We had this little bit, and we marched. We were behind the SEIU contingent and in front of the Teamsters truck. I kid you not. True story. They had the guardian angel, and we were walking down the street. But we didn't care. We're just down there shaking hands, kissing babies, telling people, conservatism isn't the enemy. You've been fed a line all your life. So 3 years ago, there's 15 of us, just me and a bunch of my friends. Last year, we had 36 people come and about 4 elected officials. So I reached out to all the elected officials in Denver and said, we already have our space in the parade. I've already filed all the paperwork. We've already done the training. Got to do parade marshal training, all this stuff. All you have to do is just show up. And we had 4. Now this last year, just this past February, there were 76 of us, and we had 9 elected officials show up. So they're starting to get it. Okay, they're starting to figure it out. So here we are, walking down the street. There's Big Ed Jones. He's a former state senator right there. We bring some dogs for protection if we needed to. There's Barb Childress. She's on my board wearing one of our T-shirts you can buy out there in the hallway. So we're just out there, and then we stopped over here at the end, and we took a big photo op. There's our first banner, the first one I ever had in my entire life. There's me. There's Casper. Someone here knows Casper. I can't remember who it is in leadership program, in the Rockies program with Casper. There's Casper's wife. Here we go. Here's Mike Kaufman, our congressman. Mike Kaufman spoke from the podium this year. So they have a podium set up, and the elected officials get up there, the mayor and the stuff. Well, he represents a district that concludes a slice of Denver. Now, the MLK Parade in Denver is 29 years old. They've been putting this thing on for 29 years. It is the first time ever that a Republican official has been a speaker. And I'll take credit for that. I'll pat myself on the back because we applied so much pressure. We called so many times. We showed up so many times. We crammed this plan down so many throats. I've given this presentation at tea parties, at Republican conventions, at Lincoln Day dinners. I've been on the radio. I've called them idiots. And we put so much pressure on that finally they knuckled. And Kaufman spoke from the podium. First time, 29 years. We're at parade marshal training. You have to go to training every year to teach you how to safely walk down the street. And the guy that was running the training session says at the end, oh, by the way, the Republicans are going to be in the parade this year. First time ever. The place broke out in applause. I kid you not. People clapped and said, it's about time. Now, here's the thing. Our presence there and the congressman speaking from the platform this year was a freak show. They announced it at training. Republicans are coming. Next year, it'll still be a freak show. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 29 years from now, oh, the Republicans are here every year. Yeah, they always come to this thing. Nice bunch of people. We have to start somewhere. We have to be the somebody. We just came off of, I got more pictures of this. We had our own platform. So Leland, I showed you in an earlier thing, owns this truck. He's a scout, by the way. He's an Eagle Scout. We set this truck up. There's our own platform with a microphone, our own speaker system, and we're right out there on the street. Martin Luther King, we made these little business cards. This is all grassroots funded, that said, Martin Luther King was a Republican. Do you know why? And you flip it on the other side, and it talked about the principles that Dr. King stood for. And we handed out thousands of those things, and then we get up on there, and we say, hey, everybody, good morning. We're here with the Republican Party, the state of Colorado Republican Party. Yes, your eyes don't deceive you. I'm black. And we just be up there, just being present, not asking for votes. Then, this is Juneteenth. Juneteenth celebration is coming up in Denver in about 3 weeks. We're going to have a booth down there at that thing. So we fork up a couple $100, whatever it is, and we're down there just shaking hands, kissing babies. There's me. That's my daughter right there. I support the American Conservatives of Color. This woman, when she walked up to me, was extremely hostile. She was one of these sisters that was just angry. But you know what? I talked to her for probably 15 minutes, standing there talking about, just deflecting this, look at her getting up on me. And by the time she walked away, I handed her one of those flyers that you have in your hands now, and she walked away from me saying, I'll read it. You actually are making some sense. We can't ask for any more than that. Okay, so this is at Juneteenth last summer. And we're going to get another, there's Casper. Somebody here knows Casper. There he is. Same thing, another lady just walking by. We were there in our booth. The Democrat booth was down the way a little bit, and we actually outdrew them. There's Big Mike Jones, this guy right here, another guy just walking by. We actually had some voter registration stuff in our booth. There's my big old left bicep. So there's point number 3. Show up. Last 2 weeks ago, we were at the Cinco de Mayo celebration in Denver. You have a Cinco de Mayo here, I guarantee it. You're a big enough city. The Republican Party, the candidates and office holders, need to have your own booth. Okay? Fork up the $400. Get one of those 10 by 10 foot booths. We had a 20 by 20 this year. Last year we had a 10 by 10. This year we were able to get a 20 by 20. And we actually stopped traffic. They called security on us 3 times because so many people were stopping in front of our booth that we were bottlenecking. And the people to our left to our right got all mad because we were hogging all the people. You need to be down there, Senator so-and-so, Congressman so-and-so, Mayor so-and-so, with your own booth, wearing your T-shirts with your entire staff. Get one of those helium tanks, filling up balloons, handing them to kids as they walk by, giving them a piece of candy, and just shaking it. Hello, what's your name? Hi, good to meet you, Jose. What's your name? Maria, good to meet you, Maria. Who's this you have with you? George, good to meet you, George. How old are you, young man? You're 10 years old, so what, are you in the 4th grade? Are you trying as hard as you can in school? Okay, shaking hands and kissing babies. Those people walk away from that booth thinking, those Republicans were nice enough. That's a victory. That's where it starts. Now that attack ad comes on TV next week, and they see that, and they think to themselves, isn't that the guy we met at the, yeah, that's the guy. He was nice enough. That stuff can't all be true. Combating the name and face recognition issue that the Republicans have is what step number 3 is all about. Step number 4. Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official, we need to begin conducting our town hall meetings in the communities. Okay, this business of coming back home into district from wherever it is that you work, county seat, state capital, Washington, D.C., whatever, and having your town hall meetings at GOP headquarters, that needs to stop. Now, yes, you've got to take care of your base. I understand that. You've got to communicate with those people. We all understand that. But those people are not going to come to your meetings. So since they aren't going to come to your meetings, we need to take your meetings to them. Okay, this business of being Republicans and going to Republican meetings that are put on by Republicans and feature Republicans talking to Republicans about being Republicans is getting us nowhere. Begin conducting your town hall meetings in the community. Now, here's the thing. If you're following the plan, step number 2 was to establish your clergy council. Once your relationships are in place with the clergy, if your relationships are good enough, you can use the churches. Right down there in the community, you have a building with a room that seats 200 people. That's ideal. So develop your relationship with your clergy council, and once it's strong enough, how about we have a town hall meeting down there at the church? If your relationship is good enough, you may be able to get a mention from the pulpit. Okay? Pastor could say, oh, by the way, everybody, on Tuesday night, if you're driving by, you notice the lights are on and there's cars in the parking lot, Congressman Anderson is going to be holding a meet and greet here in the youth room on Tuesday at 7 o'clock. So that's what's going on. Don't have to mention that you're a Republican. Once your town hall meeting schedule is in place and you begin doing it in the community, we have to get into the community to advertise it. We in the community, in the minority community, especially black, I can't speak about Hispanic so much, but we have what I call inflection points. Places where we gather, we congregate, where we just hang. Okay, it's true. Our culture developed differently than Caucasian culture for the most part. Most blacks in this country are descendants of the slave trade. Both of my parents are black, all 4 of my grandparents, all 8 of my great-grandparents, all 16 of my great-greats. I am a direct descendant, and I would add beneficiary of the slave trade. I'm not saying that slavery was a good thing. Of course it wasn't. But personally, I would rather be a lower middle-class citizen in Tulsa than an upper-class citizen in Ethiopia any day. I benefited from the fact that my ancestors were brought here on a ship. Doesn't make it right, but it worked out for me. But as a result, back in the slave days, we were out in the fields picking the cotton, doing whatever it was we were doing. And when the workday was over, they brought us back to the plantation, and we went to our barracks or wherever part of the plantation we lived, and that was the end of the day. All we had was us. We had a bonfire. We'd sit around the fire, sing hymnals. Master would give us some pig guts to cook for dinner. You know, chitlins is culture for us, and that was us. I mean, you couldn't go down to the stable and unhitch a horse and ride 2 plantations over to go visit with your friends. That wasn't an option. So as a result, our culture developed pointing much more inwardly than yours. leverage that to our advantage, because we're still like that to this day. So when you see the movies and the sitcoms on TV and they show the black men sitting around at the barbershop talking trash, that's true. Those are great places to run into black constituents. I can remember as a boy, my dad leaving home to go to the barbershop at 9 o'clock in the morning, come home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon without a single hair on his head cut. Not one. Because he wasn't going down there for the haircut. Right? He's just going down there to hang out with those fools. Watch the game, talk politics, complain about their women. It's an inflection point. We got to get you to the point, Senator so-and-so, that when you walk in the door to that barbershop, people look up and say, hey, Congressman Anderson, how are you? Haven't seen you for a while. That won't happen the first time you go. But if we start today, the time will come. Hair and nail shops. Another one, great places. In the Hispanic community, the supermercados. Supermercados can be one of those places where you just find people congregating. Quinceañeras are a gold mine for getting into the Hispanic community. Everyone knows what if you don't know what the quinceañera is, wave at me. I'll tell you. Okay, we've got a handful that don't know. Quinceañera is 15th. It's like a coming of age celebration. So when the child turns 15, in the Jewish community, they call that a bat mitzvah. Or a bar mitzvah, same sort of thing. It's a big party. Relatives, aunts, uncles, grandmas, they come from all around. They usually have it in a church. And when the child's having their 15th birthday, it's a huge celebration, cake, streamers, everyone's there. It's a big party. What a golden opportunity. Since you have a relationship with the clergy council, most of your Hispanics are going to be father so-and-so, right? Largely Catholic community. Let's find out when the quinceañeras are and start going to a few of them. So here's the thing, they're having this quinceañera, you come walking right in the door with a little token gift, not much, just a little gift, and you say, Miguel, my name is Congressman so-and-so, I want to give you a gift, I heard about your quinceañera, listen, I'm an elected representative, I represent this district, this is a big day for your family, so since it's a big day for your family, it's a big day for me. Got a busy schedule, can't stay everybody, but I just wanted to say have a fantastic time, love you, pray for you, hope to see you sometime soon, and leave. 2 minutes. But now, when that attack ad comes on TV, those people see that and they think, wait, now that's that guy that's him. He walked right into Miguel's, that's the guy. They're talking about him on TV. He was nice enough. Face and name recognition. So step number 4 is to let's move our town hall meetings and let's start getting into the community with a simple message. Step number 5, last one. Mr. and Mrs. elected Republican official. Time to go back to church. The community of faith is our softest landing spot. Let's pull out a calendar and let's pull out a map. Let's find all of the majority-minority church congregations in your district and develop a plan for you to get into those churches at least, 3 times this year, 4 times, 5 times, whatever that means. That may mean some Sundays you got to go to church 3 times, right? You got to go to the 7:30 service over here, the 9 o'clock service over there, and the noon service over there. But we've got to get you to the point where when you walk through the doors to the church, people turn around and see you and they say, hey, Congresswoman Jones, how are you? Haven't seen you for a while. Like those shoes. That won't happen the first time you go. But if we start today, the day will come when you have face and name recognition in that church congregation. If your relationship with the clergy council is good enough, if you're following step number 2, let's have a meet and greet after service. A coffee and cookie or a sandwich and soda, whatever you want to call it. If your relationship is good enough, you might even get a mention from the pulpit. Pastor could say, everybody, by the way, after service today, seated right here is one of your state senators or one of your U.S. senators or whoever it is. Senator, stand up and wave to everybody. This is Senator Thomas Dole. After service, Senator Dole and his staff are going to be having a meet and greet over here in the youth room. If you have no plans, stop in there. I think they'll have some refreshments, get a bite to eat. We should get to know our elected officials. Don't have to mention you're a Republican. Face and name recognition. Now, you've got people stopping in, having a bite to eat, you're shaking hands, you're kissing babies, you're hearing about issues if that's what they want to talk about. If they don't want to talk about issues, talk about the weather. If they don't want to talk about the weather, talk about the Cubs. They don't want to talk about the Cubs, who cares? The whole point is we're breaking down that wall. We're breaking down that barrier that says the Republicans are the enemy. The first time you have that meeting, you may only get 2 people to show up, but you know what? That's 2 more than we had last time. And if we start today, you might get 2 people today. You might get 5 or 6 next time. You might get 10 or 12 next time. And in 15 or 20 or 30 years, now we're getting 40, we're getting 60, we're getting 80. We've got to start somewhere. Would to God the Republicans were doing this stuff 35 years ago, we wouldn't be in this position, but they didn't. So all we can do is start now and move forward. When I go out and when I talk to elected officials, I say, Mr. and Mrs. Elected Official, this is the plan. 5 things. Will you do it? Will you adopt this plan and begin working with it? If you will, I have grassroots activists in this state who will work with you on the implementation of this plan. They will volunteer their time. They will do whatever they can to help you implement this plan. If you will not do it, that's okay too, because then we will fire your butt and replace you with someone who will. That's all it takes. 5 simple things. This isn't rocket science. But if we start today, the votes come tomorrow. And this is the only way it can be done. We have 50 years of Republican history to demonstrate that it can't be done the other way. So now, what you just heard is available on my table back there on DVD. I hope you'll get a couple copies. A couple. One that you keep for your own use, and one that you send to patriots elsewhere. You know, have a pay-it-forward plan. Send it to your Republican friend, your conservative friend in Louisiana. Say, you know what, you have 1 week to watch this a couple times, take notes, whatever you need to do, and then send it to Tom and Joanne in New Jersey and tell them the same thing and get these things in circulation. If we get millions of these things moving around the country and people watching it and taking notes and starting to put it into practice, we can move this thing forward. So this plan, I did this same presentation or a close facsimile thereof. I think this is from Phoenix. It's beautifully produced. You got graphics that fly in and fly out and all that stuff. You can get it on the table in the back on your way out of here. And if you've ever been to anything that resembles a political meeting, and clearly you have, I'd be remiss if I didn't get out of here without a funding pitch. Here's what I say. I mentioned that I can go places and say things to people that you cannot, and vice versa. There are those who are called to go. There are those who are called to send those who are called to go. We go down to Juneteenth. We go down to Martin Luther King. We shake hands. We stand in the fire. Who are my Facebookers in here? I know there's a handful of you. There's one. There's a couple. So you see the pictures. We go out and we do this stuff all the time. You know what? In Colorado, we're starting to move the needle. We're starting to move the needle. We had no elected officials 2 years ago. We had 4 last year. We have 9 this year. Next year, we'll have 20. The year after that, we'll have 30. We've started. But this isn't free. So we need people to go. We need people to send people to go. If you would consider supporting this organization financially, there's lots of different options. Any donation, of course, is important. But what we look for is, if possible, partners and sponsors. Partnership with this organization. And this is how I feed my family. Partnership is $9.95 a month. If you're blessed, if you say, hey, you know, fortunately I'm in a place financially where I can do significantly more than that, then maybe you could consider becoming a sponsor. Sponsorship is $1,500 a quarter or half of that for 2 years. And this is helping, A, me to put a ham on the table, and B, to fly to places like Tulsa. I'm here now. I go home. I'm up in Broomfield, Colorado, a ways from my house on Tuesday. I'm back home for another week. Then I'm going to Milwaukee and Green Bay, and then we're back home for Juneteenth. You know, we're getting this thing out onto the streets, and it's not free. Now, I understand that stinks for you. I mean, everybody wants your money. I want your money. Nathan wants your money. Dax wants your money. We all want your money. I mean, I get that. But if there is a more important cause than this one, I'd like to know what it is. If we can successfully get this plan seeded here, there, and everywhere, I believe that we can see a turn in this country. It won't take much. You heard the numbers earlier. If we can get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% of the minority voters in this country to start changing their minds, we can slam the door on this wave of liberalism that's taking over. So if you would consider becoming a partner, all I ask for is $10. So I go out and I give this presentation or some versions thereof it and say, you know, here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who hear this plan, who see it, and say, you know what? I believe. I believe it, and I'm willing to back it up by reaching into my own pocket. I'll skip a pizza or 2 Starbucks a month, and I'll help you guys out. for $10. If you're willing to do that, God bless you. If you're not able to do that, then pray for us. God, I need your prayer. I need your prayers more than I need your money. Pray for my poor wife. Oh, jeez. Lord, help that woman. There's me and my merry band of men. Some of you have seen a couple of these guys around, but this is the team that I started with. That was our original logo, the Not Mutually Conservative. We, the black guys, wear that. It doesn't make as much sense for you. But we have the T-shirts out back for you, the DVDs out back for you, the bumper stickers. Get a bumper sticker. You know, bumper stickers are the most read pieces of literature in the United States of America today. They are. You read them. You can't help yourself. You pull up behind somebody at a red light, you know that person that's got their whole tailgate just plastered with bumper stickers? You sit there and you read every single one of them. You can't help yourself. And then if it's somebody with a bunch of I Heart Obamacare type stuff, you like speed up so you can get next to them and see what the freaks look like. You know what I'm saying? Bumper stickers matter. So, and plus I don't want to ship all that stuff back home. So get a shirt, get a bumper sticker, and let me tell you this. Me and my little band of merry men, we are like the Bad News Bears. Some of you in this room are old enough to remember the Bears. Now, do the 1970s movie. If you remember the Bad News Bears, these guys were terrible. They're out there in the beginning of the movie, they're bumping into each other in practice, they're dropping pop-ups and they're just a mess. They're the worst team. Coach is drunk all the time, everything else. But then somewhere along the line, the Bears figured out they're not going to give us a trophy for finishing second place. And they started working harder. They started showing up for practice first thing in the morning. They started going through their grounder and pop-up drills. They started working on turn and double plays. And at the end of that movie, the Bears won that trophy. That's me and my little team of guys. We're not professional politicians. Frankly, we don't even know what we're doing. We're just doing it. And we're flying around and driving around and spreading seed, and Paul's planting, and the prayer that 20 years from now Apollos is going to water. We're going to find a way to win this thing. I don't know how, but we're going to get that trophy because I refuse to stop as long as there is blood flowing through my veins. I'll be here doing this. There are places you can get a hold of me. I write for American Thinker, as mentioned, and freedomsjournal.net. Patriots, this is heart attack serious. And I've personally put everything I have into this thing. I don't know how to work any harder, and I need your help. However, whatever that looks like. I told my wife, and this is a part of the presentation I always have a tough time getting through. I don't always mention it because I get emotional, but when I first started doing this thing in my backyard, we feed you. At our meetings, we put on a meal, a full meal. Not cookies and coffee. I mean, a sit-down meal. We started at the very first one. I said, I've been in church long enough to know you want people to keep coming to your meetings, feed them. So we're putting on a meal in our backyard for 90. And then we outgrew my backyard, plus the weather started changing, so I rented a space. We moved into a local university. We're putting on meals for 100, 110 people. Then we grew to Denver. And I do the same thing. So now I'm feeding 200, 300, 400 people twice a month in 2 different cities. Then we went to Phoenix. And, I'm just growing this thing. And my wife... women have that nesting instinct anyway. My wife got to look into what was happening to our savings account and said, are you sure? You know what you're doing here? And I said to her, sweetheart, it's a true story. I said, sweetheart, if doing this means that when I'm 70 years old, I got to put on a blue vest, sit there and say, welcome to Walmart, that's a price I'm willing to pay. And my wife, God bless her, my wife, seeing our life savings go down the drain, not down the drain, it was going to a worthy cause, but seeing it dwindle, she said, then do it. Do it, spend it all. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, you got to be obedient to what the Lord's told you to do. And so I fly around the country, I present this thing, I try to sell CDs and say, Patriots, this is what it's going to take. I've never seen a better plan. If you've seen a better plan, support that. I've just never seen it. The Republican Party loves to talk about outreach. Reince Priebus, and we're going to spend $10 million on outreach. Typical big government solution, throw money at it. We don't need to spend more money. We need to burn more shoe leather. The Republicans have millions, but no plan. I have a plan, but no money. And I would argue that me and my little merry band of men, we have done more to move the needle to the political right in my state in 3 years with no money than the Republican Party has in 10 years with $20 million, because they don't get it. And if you would help us in any way you can, God bless you. Saints, patriots, brothers and sisters, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming tonight. That's it.